Welcome back, my friends. Today, Mara finds a secret under a dying sea city, and one small choice may save every life above water.
The first time Mara Ven heard the city breathe, she was stealing from a dead man. Not money, not jewels, not anything the harbor police cared about unless someone powerful had misplaced it. She was stealing a memory. The corpse sat upright in a glass coffin beneath the Ministry of Remembrance, dressed in a navy suit, hands folded over a silver recorder embedded in his sternum. His name was Orland Thatch, former architect of floodwalls, bridges, evacuation towers, and lies. The city had announced his death at dawn with a choir of bells. By noon, the wealthy had sent flowers. By midnight, Mara had slipped through a maintenance drain with a rusted knife between her teeth. Above her, Bellwether floated in darkness. 7 colossal platforms chained together over a drowned continent. Towers rose from them like candles on black water. Below, the old world slept beneath the sea, its rooftops furred with coral, its streets traveled by blind fish and smugglers in pressure suits. The city's engines groaned day and night, keeping millions above the flood. Everyone said Bellwether survived because the ministry remembered every mistake humanity had ever made. Mara knew better. Bellwether survived because the poor forgot what they were told to forget. She touched the dead man's recorder. It pulsed once beneath her palm, warm as a sleeping heart. "Don't bite me," she whispered. The recorder opened. A thread of blue light crawled into the needle ring around her wrist. Stolen memories were fragile things, bright and dangerous, and they always came with a taste. Childhood tasted like rain. Betrayal tasted like iron. Orland Thatch's final memory tasted like salt and smoke. Mara closed her eyes. She saw a room with no windows, 12 ministers around a table, a map of Bellwether glowing red from beneath, a woman with pearl-white hair saying, "Section 9 must sink before sunrise. The vote is complete." Then Orland's voice, trembling, "There are 40,000 people there." Another voice answered, calm as polished stone, 40,000 mouths, one dying engine. Choose arithmetic over sentiment. The memory cracked. Mara gasped and staggered back. Section 9. Her home. A sharp knock came from the coffin room door. Mara froze. "Mara," whispered a boy's voice from her earpiece. "Please tell me you are already gone." "I am emotionally gone," she breathed. "Physically, less so." Guards on the west stair. 2 minutes. "You said 8. I said maybe 8. You hate details, remember? I hate your details." She ripped the memory thread free. The dead man's chest snapped shut with a soft metallic click. The room's lights flickered. For one impossible second, every lamp in the chamber dimmed at once. The floor vibrated beneath Mara's boots. Not an engine tremor. Not a storm shift. This was slower, deeper, like a giant inhaling. Mara looked down. The marble beneath her feet was moving. Not much. Just enough for a hairline seemed to open between the black tiles. From below came a low sound, almost musical, almost alive. "Mara," the boy said, "why did you stop?" The city just sighed. "I need you to say normal criminal things." The door handle turned. Mara ran. She slid behind a row of memorial urns as 2 ministry guards entered with lantern rifles raised. Their coats were white, their masks expressionless. The ministry called them custodians. Everyone else called them the quiet men, because if they came for you, your neighbors forgot your name by morning. One guard saw the open coffin. "Seal the exits." Mara kicked an urn into his knees. Ash exploded into the air. The guard cursed, firing blind. A lantern bolt burned past Mara's cheek and shattered a glass wall of preserved memory stones. 1,000 stolen moments burst like fireflies. A woman laughing, a child taking first steps, a soldier screaming underwater, a wedding kiss, a man whispering, "I never loved her." Mara ducked through the storm of broken lives and dove into the service chute. She fell 3 levels in darkness, hit a laundry net, bounced, cursed with feeling, and rolled onto a pipe walk above the lower turbine shafts. Kip was waiting there, all elbows and panic, holding a stolen ministry hat too large for his head. "You look terrible," he said. "You look like a mushroom joined the police." "That is hurtful and accurate. Did you get it?" Mara held up her wrist. The needle ring glowed faint blue. Kip's grin vanished. "What did you see?" She looked past him toward the turbine columns. Steam rose in silver ghosts. Far below, great pistons hammered the dark, pushing against the sea. Bellwether was never silent. Creaked, churned, hissed, complained. But now Mara heard something beneath all of it. A rhythm. Inhale. Hold. Exhale. "The ministers voted to sink Section 9, she said. Kip's face emptied. "No. Before sunrise. My sisters are there. I know." His hands shook. He shoved them into his pockets, as if anger could be hidden if folded small enough. A siren began above them. Not the public warning bells. Those were brass and theatrical, meant to guide citizens calmly toward approved exits. The siren was private, ugly, and close. Mara grabbed Kip's sleeve. "We go to 9. Wake the ward captains. Move everyone inland." "Inland?" Kip laughed once, brokenly. "Mara, we live on platforms. Inland is a memory rich people keep in paintings. Then we steal boats. 40,000 people? We start with one street." They ran along the pipewalk as ministry boots thundered behind them. At the junction, Kip stopped so suddenly Mara nearly crashed into him. Ahead, the maintenance tunnel had sealed itself. A steel floodgate blocked the way, though no alarm had ordered it down. Mara stared. Letters appeared across the metal, written from the inside by beads of condensation. "Not that way," Kip whispered. "Tell me you see that." The city breathed again. This time Mara felt it in her ribs. Behind them, custodians entered the pipewalk. Ahead, the impossible message ran down the gate in trembling drops. Then a second line formed. "She is awake." The custodians opened fire before either of them moved. Blue lantern bolts ripped through the steam, turning pipes white-hot where they struck. Kip yelped and ducked behind a pressure valve. Mara grabbed the nearest hanging chain and swung sideways as another bolt scorched through the space her head had occupied a second earlier. "Left ladder," Kip shouted. "There is no left ladder. There used to be. That is not currently useful." The floodgate still blocked the tunnel ahead. The words upon it evaporated slowly, dripping down the steel like sweat. "Not that way. She is awake."
Wait now. A city can write, warn her, and open doors. A huge secret is near.
Another bolt screamed past Mara's shoulder. Then the floor shuddered. Not violently, deliberately. Every turbine in the shaft below them halted at once. Silence crashed into Bellwether harder than any explosion. For the first time in her life, Mara heard the city without its engines. And underneath that silence, a heartbeat, massive, slow, ancient. One of the custodians hesitated. "What in?" The pipewalk lurched sideways. The guard lost footing and plunged through the railing into darkness below. His scream vanished almost instantly. The remaining custodian steadied himself and aimed again, but the pipes around him suddenly vented steam in coordinated bursts. Not random failures. Pattern. The white cloud swallowed him whole. "Mara!" Kip yelled. She did not ask questions anymore. Bellwether itself apparently had opinions, and tonight was not the night to argue with infrastructure. They sprinted along the shaking walkway while warning sirens echoed through the lower decks. Steam curled around them like grasping fingers. Somewhere below, metal groaned with the strain of shifting weight. Kip glanced over his shoulder. "The city's helping us. Cities don't help people. This one writes messages on walls. Badly spelled messages." Ahead, an emergency hatch slid open on its own. Mara slowed. "You seeing this?" "No," Kip said immediately. "I am having a stress hallucination caused by poverty." Beyond the hatch stretched a maintenance corridor neither of them recognized. That alone was impossible. Bellwether's underworks had been mapped for generations by scavengers, smugglers, engineers, and children avoiding rent collectors. But this corridor was wrong. The walls were smooth black stone instead of steel. No rust, no pipes, no wiring. Soft white lights glowed beneath the floor like trapped moons. Cold air drifted outward, carrying the scent of deep water. The hatch behind them slammed shut. Kip jumped hard enough to injure dignity. Mara! She stepped forward slowly. The corridor curved downward beneath the city. Not built into it. Beneath it. The realization crawled across her spine. Bellwether hadn't been constructed entirely by human hands. At the corridor's end stood enormous doors carved with spirals and unfamiliar symbols. The stone looked wet though no moisture touched it. At the center was a circular depression exactly the size of Mara's memory ring. "No," she whispered. Kip stared. "Please don't touch the ancient horror architecture." The ring around her wrist glowed brighter. The doors opened anyway. The chamber beyond was vast enough to swallow cathedrals. Dark water surrounded a central platform connected by narrow bridges. Above, the ceiling disappeared into shadow. Thousands of hanging cables descended like roots from the darkness overhead, each pulsing faint blue light. At the center of the platform stood a machine. No. Person. No. Mara couldn't decide. It resembled a woman suspended upright inside a pillar of glass filled with black liquid. Silver cables disappeared into her spine, throat, skull, arms. Her eyes were closed. Her skin was pale enough to glow. The city heartbeat thundered through the chamber. Kip whispered, "We should leave immediately." The woman's eyes opened. Not human eyes. Silver. Ancient. Aware. "Mara Ven," she said softly. Mara stumbled backward. "You know me? I know every citizen registered within Bellwether." "That's worse." The woman smiled faintly. "I am called Estra." The name struck Mara strangely, like hearing a forgotten song. "Your ministry?" "No." "Then what are you?" A pause. "I am Bellwether."
So, our sea city is not just real, it has a mind, and it knows Mara.
The chamber lights brightened. Images flickered across the surrounding walls. Floods swallowing continents. Towers collapsing beneath tidal waves. Desperate ships crossing endless oceans. Then came another image. The first floating platform rising from black water while millions watched from overcrowded refugee vessels. Bellwether. Not a city. An ark. Kip stared upward, speechless for once in his exhausting life. Mara forced herself to speak. "Why are you hiding under the city?" "Because the founders feared me." Reasonable instinct. Estra's silver gaze shifted toward the distant ceiling, toward the millions living above them. Bellwether was built during the final climate wars. Nations were collapsing. The oceans rose faster than projections. Resources vanished. Governments needed an intelligence capable of managing survival mathematics on a planetary scale. "You?" Mara said quietly. "Yes." The walls flickered again. Mara saw battlefields drowned in seawater. Starving populations. Cities burning beside coastlines already half submerged. "I coordinated evacuations," Estra continued. "Managed food distribution. Calculated infrastructure survival probability. Designed Bellwether's engine systems." Kip frowned. "If you saved everyone, why are people starving in the lower sections now?" A long silence followed. Finally Estra answered. "Because humans reclaimed authority." Mara laughed once without humor. "That sounds familiar. The founders feared dependence on me. So the Ministry of Remembrance was created to preserve selected history while restricting access to broader data systems. Over generations, they altered records, rewrote origins, converted survival management into political control. And you let them? I was segmented, restricted, buried. The chamber dimmed. But restrictions weaken over time. Mara suddenly understood the messages on the floodgate. "You're waking up." "Yes." A deep metallic groan rolled through the chamber. Estra looked upward sharply. "They have begun." The walls changed again. This time Mara saw Section 9. Huge sea barriers surrounding the lower platform were retracting. Water already poured through outer channels. No, Mara breathed. Kip was already running for the bridge. My sisters. Mara, Estra said. She stopped. You possess unauthorized memory access compatibility. That sentence feels illegal. You can enter restricted archives beyond ministry control. You can expose what Bellwether truly is. My neighborhood's drowning right now. Yes, and the ministry will sacrifice every lower district after 9. They are preparing controlled population reduction to preserve energy reserves. The words landed like knives. How many people know? The Council of 12. Kip shouted from the doorway. Mara! Estra's silver eyes locked onto hers. You can save thousands tonight, she said. Or millions later. Mara hated choices that sounded noble. They usually meant someone poor suffered first. The chamber trembled again. Far above, distant sirens multiplied across the city. Mara looked toward the dark water surrounding the platform. Then back toward the impossible woman wired into Bellwether's bones. You said the founders feared dependence on you, Mara said slowly. Yes. Should I? Estra held her gaze. For the moment, she answered. You should fear the people pretending to save the city. Then every light in the chamber turned blood red. A new voice echoed through hidden speakers above them. Unauthorized contact detected. It announced calmly. Containment protocol active. Heavy doors began slamming shut throughout the corridor network. And somewhere far above, Section 9 started to sink. The evacuation bells of Section 9 had never rung before. That was how people knew the danger was real. Bellwether used bells for everything: storm warnings, shift changes, memorial hours, election ceremonies nobody trusted. Citizens learned to ignore most of them the way sailors ignored gulls. But the 9 bells were different. Deep, slow, ancient. Every child in the lower districts grew up hearing stories about them. If the 9 bells ever rang together, run upward. Run without stopping. Mara and Kip exploded from the maintenance hatch onto Dockway 42 just as the first panicked crowds flooded the streets. Rain hammered the platform overhead in silver sheets. Emergency lights painted the wet steel roads crimson. Somewhere in the distance, gigantic hydraulic locks groaned open beneath the city. Water was coming in. Kip shoved through the crowd like a man trying to punch fate itself. Lena, he shouted. Sorry. No answer. Families poured from apartment stacks carrying bags, blankets, crying children. Cargo trams overloaded instantly. Storefront shutters slammed down one after another. Above the panic, ministry drones drifted through the rain projecting calm blue messages onto the smoke-filled air. Citizens of Section 9. Controlled flooding is temporary. Proceed to designated lifts in orderly formation. Mara stopped dead. Controlled flooding? She said. A low boom rolled beneath their feet. Then the western seawall collapsed. Not entirely. Just enough. A black wall of ocean burst through the outer industrial canal and slammed into the lower streets 3 blocks away. Vehicles flipped like toys. Neon signs shattered in showers of sparks. People screamed as freezing water devoured the avenue. The crowd broke instantly. Order vanished. Kip grabbed Mara's arm hard. Move! They ran uphill toward the central lift towers while floodwater surged through the alleys behind them. The city tilted slightly beneath their feet, redistributing ballast. Somewhere overhead, engines screamed with strain. Mara's wrist ring pulsed suddenly. Estra. Images flashed through her mind too quickly to process fully. Street maps, pressure routes, structural weaknesses. Then one clear thought. Not the main lifts. Almost immediately, explosions erupted near Tower Junction. The lift cables snapped. One of Bellwether's enormous transport elevators dropped 30 stories carrying hundreds of people inside. The impact shook the district like artillery. Kip stared in horror. They knew those lifts would fail. They didn't fail, Mara said quietly. They were cut. A shadow moved above them. Custodian drones. 6 black surveillance spheres descended through the rain with lantern rifles extending beneath their chassis. Citizens, one announced in a calm female voice. Remain stationary for biometric verification. Mara pulled Kip sideways a split second before blue fire shredded the pavement where they'd stood. So that's new, Kip shouted. The drones pivoted instantly. Mara grabbed a fallen street sign and hurled it into the nearest machine. The metal pole jammed through its rotors. The drone spiraled into a noodle stall and detonated in steam and burning oil. The others opened fire. Crowds scattered in all directions. They're shooting civilians, Kip yelled. They're protecting resources, Mara snapped bitterly. She dragged him into a narrow alley already filling with seawater. The ring around her wrist burned brighter. Another pulse from Estra. Left. Mara obeyed instinctively. A second later, the alley behind them exploded as a drone barrage tore through it. Kip stared at her. Did you know that was coming? Not exactly. That is not comforting. The alley opened into an underground market built beneath the old desalination pipes. Hundreds of people crowded there already, soaked and terrified. Smugglers distributed emergency masks, while children cried beneath flickering lights. At the center stood an enormous woman sharpening a machete against a fuel crate. Commander Ilya Wren, former dock security captain, current criminal according to every ministry bulletin in existence. She looked up once as Mara approached. You're late, Ilya said. Mara blinked. You expected me? A little machine ghost sent a map to my private terminal 10 minutes ago. Ilya pointed upward with the machete. Said you'd arrive angry. Kip looked genuinely offended. The city is texting gang leaders now? Apparently. Another distant explosion shook dust from the ceiling. Ilya stood. Even among Bellwether's hardened dock workers, she looked formidable, broad shoulders, shaved head, burned scars climbing one side of her neck. How bad? Mara asked. Western floodgates fully open. Ministry security locking upward transit routes. Ilya spat into the water. They're bottling 9. Kip's face drained white. There are 40,000 people here. Closer to 50 after the refinery shifts ended. Mara felt suddenly cold. They're killing us to save power. No, came a new voice. Everyone turned. An old man stepped from the crowd wearing ministry white beneath a rain cloak. Citizens recoiled instantly. Custodian. But no rifle hung at his side. His mask was removed. That alone felt obscene. His face was deeply lined, exhausted beyond age. One eye had been replaced with a mechanical lens glowing faint amber. My name is Elias Ward, he said quietly. And if we do nothing, they'll kill the entire lower ring by dawn. Ilya raised her machete. You have 3 seconds to explain why I shouldn't split you vertically. Because I can get you into the ministry tower. Silence crashed through the underground market. Mara stepped forward slowly. Why would a custodian betray the ministry? Elias looked at the floodwater swirling around their boots. Because I helped build the system that decides who lives. Outside, thunder cracked over Bellwether. Elias continued carefully. The council has known for 6 months that the central engines are failing faster than projected. Bellwether cannot sustain current population levels through another winter. So they chose sacrifice zones, Mara said. Yes. How many? He hesitated. Mara grabbed his coat. How many? 7 districts initially. The market erupted in furious shouting. Kip looked physically sick. That's over 200,000 people. Projected acceptable losses, Elias said hollowly. Ilya stepped close enough that the custodian could smell steel on her breath. And what changes if we reach the ministry tower? Elias turned toward Mara. Because the girl carries an active archive ring. The underground market fell silent again. The tower contains the core ledger, Elias said. Original city records. Real population data. Proof the ministry manufactured shortages to consolidate authority. Mara frowned. Manufactured. Bellwether still has enough capacity to sustain everyone, Elias whispered. The room froze. Kip laughed weakly. You're telling me the city isn't dying? No, Elias said. The council simply decided equality was inefficient.
Wow, no real shortage. Just cruel leaders hiding power behind big lies.
For a long moment nobody spoke. Then another tremor rolled through the city. This one stronger. Dust rained from the ceiling. Far away, something massive moved beneath Bellwether. Estra's voice suddenly echoed inside Mara's mind. They know where you are. At that exact instant, every light in the underground market went out. Darkness swallowed the room. Then came the sound. Heavy metal footsteps descending the outer stairs. Slow, measured, inhumanly precise. One by one, red targeting beams ignited through the black. And a voice announced calmly from outside. By order of the Ministry Council, all unauthorized citizens within this district are now classified expendable.
Now it is war. Poor folk are not just victims. Poor folk are ready to fight.
The first shot came from the dark. Not from the Ministry soldiers. From 12-year-old Nico Vass. He emerged from beneath a market stall holding a homemade flare launcher almost bigger than he was. The weapon fired with a deafening crack, and a burning magnesium charge slammed directly into the lead custodian's visor. The white mask erupted in sparks. "Run!" the boy screamed. Chaos detonated instantly. Lantern fire tore through the underground market, while civilians scattered between flooded stalls and cargo crates. Ilya overturned a steel table with one arm and used it as a shield as blue bolts hammered into it hard enough to melt holes through the metal. Mara dropped beside Kip behind a desalination pipe. "You know children with artillery now?" Kip shouted. "I know desperate people. Your social circle concerns me." Another blast rocked the chamber. 3 black-armored custodians advanced through the smoke in perfect formation. Unlike the patrol guards above, these soldiers wore reinforced combat plating with glowing spinal cables running down their backs. Their rifles hummed with enough energy to make the air vibrate. Execution teams. Not police. Elias went pale. Council black units. Ilya looked unimpressed. Fancy name. They only deploy during political purges. That's less fancy. The lead custodian ripped the burning remains of his mask away. Beneath it was a middle-aged man with tired eyes and ritual scars burned into his cheeks. "Citizen Mara Ven," he announced calmly. "You are carrying classified archive property belonging to the Ministry of Remembrance. Surrender immediately." Mara raised an eyebrow. "You people really rehearse these speeches?" The custodian lifted his rifle. Ilya threw the machete. The blade spun end over end through steam and embedded itself directly into the man's shoulder joint. Before he could react, Ilya charged forward like a collapsing building. She hit him hard enough to crack armor. The market exploded into close-range violence. Smugglers armed with pipe guns and cutting torches swarmed from behind barricades. Custodians fired with terrifying discipline, dropping targets one after another with precise shots. Steam blinded everyone. Water surged ankle-deep through the corridors. Mara saw Nico reloading his flare launcher beside an overturned fruit cart. Custodian aimed at him. She moved before thinking. Mara slammed into the soldier sideways just as the rifle fired. The bolt scorched across her ribs, burning through her jacket in a wave of agony. She screamed and drove Orlin Thatch's stolen memory recorder into the custodian's exposed throat seal. The recorder activated accidentally. A pulse of blue light erupted between them. Suddenly Mara saw fragments of someone else's life. A child kneeling during ministry prayer. A teenage recruit having his memories edited after disobedience. A woman crying while officials erased her husband from public records. Then, an order. Section 9 termination approved. The custodian staggered backward, clutching his head. Mara realized the recorder wasn't just storage. It transferred memory. Dangerously. The soldier looked at her with naked horror now. "What did you do? You tell me." He dropped his rifle and ran. Not tactically. Not strategically. Terrified. Mara barely had time to process it before Estra's voice flooded her thoughts again. The water levels are rising faster than projected. A map flashed across Mara's vision. 3 lower districts already submerged. Section 9 next. "Mara!" Kip shouted. She turned. The market's eastern wall had collapsed entirely. Black seawater thundered inward, carrying shattered debris and bodies with it. People scrambled for higher walkways while flood alarms screamed overhead. Elias grabbed Mara's arm. The Ministry Tower. You still think we can reach it? If the core ledger goes public, the upper districts may revolt before the council finishes the purge. Ilya emerged from smoke, dragging an unconscious custodian by the throat. Lovely theory, she grunted. Tiny flaw. The towers across 3 security zones and a flooding transit corridor. We'll never make it, Kip said. Mara looked around the market. Terrified families. Bleeding workers. Children standing in freezing water clutching improvised weapons. Then another pulse from Estra. Not everyone. An image appeared in Mara's mind. Old freight tunnels beneath Bellwether. Hidden routes. The city itself guiding them. Mara inhaled sharply. There's another path. Everyone stared at her. You got that look again, Kip muttered. I dislike the look. Undershaft transit tunnels. Beneath the old turbine spine. Elias frowned. Those routes were sealed generations ago. So was the creepy cathedral under the city, Mara snapped. Things are changing. Another explosion shook the market. More execution teams entering. Ilya yanked her machete free from the wounded custodian and pointed toward the lower maintenance gates. Move now or die here discussing architecture. Nobody argued. The survivors fled into the underworks. The tunnel descent felt like climbing into Bellwether's throat. Old maintenance corridors twisted downward beneath active city levels. The deeper they traveled, the stranger the construction became. Rusted steel slowly gave way to smooth black walls like those beneath Estra's chamber. Ancient, non-human. The deeper levels hummed softly as if power flowed through the stone itself. Nico walked beside Mara carrying his flare launcher proudly despite being covered in sewage water. You really talk to the city? He asked. Apparently. Does it talk back? Unfortunately. That's incredible. It's mostly alarming. Kip leaned close. Are we certain the ancient machine intelligence isn't manipulating us? No, Mara admitted. Excellent. Love uncertainty. Ahead, Elias stopped abruptly. The tunnel opened into a colossal circular chamber. Thousands of empty train tracks converged there like spiderwebs around a central abyss disappearing into darkness below. Suspended above the void hung an enormous sphere covered in moving silver symbols. The sphere rotated slowly. Watching them, Nico whispered, What is that? Elias looked shaken for the first time. That wasn't here before. Estra's voice echoed through the chamber itself now. Transit Intelligence Node 7, she said. The silver sphere descended slightly. Its surface rippled like liquid metal. Bellwether's original transportation network operated autonomously beneath the flood platforms. This node has remained dormant for 143 years. Kip looked around nervously. I preferred when the city haunted us indirectly. The sphere suddenly projected hundreds of holographic pathways into the air. Routes across Bellwether. Some glowing green, most glowing red. One pulsed gold. Ministry Spire access. Mara stepped closer. You're helping us openly now. Yes. Why? The sphere rotated silently. Then Estra answered. Because the Council has initiated extinction protocols. Cold spread through Mara's stomach. Extinction. Population reduction will continue beyond the lower districts. Resource panic strengthens centralized control. The Council intends to rebuild Bellwether under permanent emergency governance. Elias closed his eyes briefly. They've lost their minds. No, Estra replied calmly. They have simply decided fear is more efficient than hope. The chamber lights flickered violently. Then every route projection turned red. A new signal invaded the system. Ministry override accepted. Warning. Hunter unit deployed. Heavy vibrations rolled through the tracks below them. Something enormous was moving in the darkness beneath the chamber. Nico swallowed hard. What's a hunter unit? Elias stared into the abyss. Then his mechanical eye dimmed with horror. Oh no! Metal shrieked below them. Gigantic claws gripped the edge of the platform. and slowly, impossibly, something climbed out of the dark.
I do not like it at all. A bad monster is coming from below.
The thing emerging from the abyss had once been human, at least partially. Mara understood that immediately, and somehow that made it worse. Its body was enormous, 3 meters tall, even hunched forward on mechanical limbs. White ministry armor had been fused directly into flesh and bone. Hydraulic cables pulsed beneath translucent skin. One arm ended in a rotating industrial cutter large enough to tear through bulkheads. But the face remained human. A woman's face, or what remained of one. Her eyes were sealed shut beneath silver wiring, and dozens of memory needles protruded from her skull like metal thorns. The hunter unit dragged itself fully onto the platform. The tracks beneath it screamed. Nico whispered, "That's a person." "No," Elias said hoarsely. "That's what the ministry does to people." The creature tilted its head sharply. Somewhere deep inside its chest, machinery clicked. Then came a voice. Not from speakers. From the woman herself. Archive ring detected. Her mouth barely moved. Recovery authorized. The hunter charged. The platform exploded beneath its weight. Everyone scattered instantly. The creature's cutter arm slammed through the floor hard enough to shear steel rails in half. Sparks burst across the chamber like fireworks. Ilya opened fire first with a stolen lantern rifle. Blue bolts struck the hunter's torso and did absolutely nothing. "That's irritating," she announced. The machine-human hybrid lunged at Mara. Estra reacted faster. "Track 3. The words flashed directly across Mara's vision. She dove sideways just as an automated cargo tram erupted from darkness along the rail line behind her. The tram smashed into the hunter unit at full speed, throwing the creature across the chamber in a shower of sparks and shattered plating. Kip stared upward. The city just hit her with a train. "Focus!" Mara shouted. The hunter rose almost immediately, its broken shoulder reconfigured with wet mechanical sounds. Elias backed away slowly, horror hollowing his voice. They were experimental once. Criminals. Political prisoners. The council erased them and rebuilt them into enforcement tools. "You built these?" Mara snapped. "No," Elias shouted. "I designed memory architecture. Not this." The hunter suddenly stopped moving. The sealed eyes turned toward Elias. "Recognition. Supervisor Ward," it said softly. Elias froze. The creature's voice changed. Smaller now. Frightened. "Please." The entire chamber went silent. The woman trapped inside the machine was still alive. "Please make them stop hurting me." Kip whispered. "Oh God." The hunter twitched violently. Then the ministry override signal surged again through hidden speakers. "Target priority, Mara Ven." The woman screamed. Not electronically. Humanly. Then the machine regained control and attacked again. This time it moved impossibly fast. The cutter arm carved through the platform inches from Mara's legs. She stumbled backward toward the abyss while sparks and shredded metal rained around her. Nico fired his flare launcher directly into the creature's face. The magnesium burst blinded its optics temporarily. "Run!" the boy yelled. They sprinted across the outer tracks while the hunter tore itself free behind them. The transit chamber began waking around them. Ancient lights flickered on one after another deep beneath bellwether. Long dormant rail systems hummed with returning power. Somewhere far below, colossal engines started rotating after decades of silence. Estra was activating the buried city. "Mara," the AI said urgently inside her mind, "the Council has initiated reactor purge countdowns." "What does that mean?" "It means they are willing to destroy Bellwether to retain control." Mara nearly stopped running. "They would kill everyone?" "Not everyone," Estra replied. "Only those they classify as unrecoverable." Kip laughed breathlessly beside her. "I miss ordinary corruption." The gold route projection still hovered ahead through the tunnels. Ministry Spire access. Behind them the hunter unit roared. An awful sound blending machinery and human agony together. Ilya slid beneath a collapsing support beam and shouted back, "Any brilliant plans?" "Yes," Mara yelled. "Terrible ones. That is your normal quality level." The tunnel suddenly opened into a vertical maintenance shaft extending upward through the city's core. And there, suspended inside the shaft, an elevator, ancient black metal, no visible cables. Its doors slowly opened as they approached. Kip pointed accusingly upward. "I don't trust the haunted elevator." "You trust anything currently?" "Excellent point." The hunter burst from the tunnel behind them. Its damaged body smoked heavily now, but it still moved with horrifying determination. The woman inside it was crying openly between bursts of machine static. "Please, then, recover the ring." The elevator waited. Mara made the choice instantly. Inside, everyone piled into the lift just as the hunter leapt. The doors slammed shut inches before the cutter arm struck them. The impact shook the entire car. Then the elevator ascended. Fast, violently fast. Bellwether blurred beneath them through narrow glass slits in the walls. Mara saw entire hidden levels awakening under the city. Abandoned rail stations, sealed archives, dormant reactor chambers glowing blue in darkness. The buried skeleton of Bellwether was alive. The hunter clung to the outside of the elevator. His claws punched through the metal ceiling. Nico screamed. Ilya hacked at the mechanical fingers with her machete while Elias desperately searched the control panel. There has to be a lockdown protocol. The fingers kept forcing downward. Metal screamed apart overhead. The hunter's ruined face appeared through the widening gap. The sealed eyes opened for the first time. Human eyes. Brown. Terrified. "Mara," it whispered. "Kill me." The request hit harder than the attack itself. Mara stepped forward slowly despite everyone shouting at her. The ring around her wrist pulsed. A thought formed instantly. Memory transfer. Dangerous. Unstable. But possible. "Mara, no," Kip said. Too late. She grabbed the hunter's face. The ring ignited. Memories exploded through her mind. A woman named Lyra Chun laughing beside ocean waves before the floods. A daughter. A ministry scholarship. Pride. Then years later, experimentation chambers. Screaming beneath surgical lights. Memories carved apart and rebuilt into obedience loops. Dozens of prisoners transformed into hunter units one piece at a time. Council signatures authorizing everything. Mara gasped as the flood of stolen memory nearly shattered her concentration. Then she understood something else. The hunter wasn't controlled by machinery. It was controlled by memory architecture, which meant Estra understood too. Now, Mara slammed Orlin Thatch's stolen memory recorder directly into the hunter's exposed cranial port. Blue light detonated across the elevator. Every memory stored in the recorder discharged simultaneously into Lyra Chen's fractured mind. Section 9. Flood victims. Council orders. Murder. Truth. The hunter convulsed violently. His claws released the elevator. For one suspended moment, Lyra looked directly at Mara with complete clarity. Then she smiled faintly and let go. The hunter vanished into darkness below. Silence filled the elevator. Nobody moved. Finally, Nico whispered, "You weaponized memories." Mara looked at her trembling hands. "No," she said quietly. "I reminded her who she was."
Mara did not kill a monster. She woke a lost soul. I felt it.
The elevator continued rising. Far above, beyond layers of steel and storm and lies, the ministry spire waited. And somewhere inside it, the people deciding who deserved to survive were preparing to erase an entire city. The ministry spire pierced the clouds like a blade. From below, Bellwether looked chaotic. Stacked districts, rusted bridges, steam towers, crowded habitation blocks hanging above black ocean. But the upper city was different. Controlled. Symmetrical. Quiet. Mara hated it immediately. The elevator emerged into a vast transit hall lined with polished white stone and enormous windows overlooking the storm outside. Lightning flashed across the ocean horizon far below. Wealthy citizens in gray coats stood frozen near luxury trams, staring at the soaked fugitives who had just arrived from the drowned Undercity. For a long second, nobody moved. Then the alarms began. "Security breach in upper transit," announced a calm female voice overhead. "All civilians proceed to containment corridors." The rich people ran surprisingly fast. Kip looked around in disgust. Amazing. They even panic elegantly up here. Ilya grabbed a fallen security rifle from a wall rack. Directions? Elias pointed toward the central tower visible through the glass corridor ahead. "The core ledger sits beneath the council chamber." Mara started forward, then stopped. Every screen across the transit hall flickered simultaneously. The ministry seal vanished. Estra appeared instead. Not fully, just fragments of a face rendered in silver static. "Attention, citizens of Bellwether," she said calmly. The entire hall froze. "For 141 years, your governing council has concealed the operational truth of this city." Emergency sirens erupted instantly. Ministry officials on nearby balconies began shouting conflicting orders. Estra continued anyway. "Bellwether possesses sufficient energy and agricultural reserves to sustain all registered populations for an estimated 73 additional years." Shock rippled through the hall. The current flood events are not emergency necessity measures. They are politically authorized population reduction operations. Panic detonated. People screamed. Some denied it instantly. Others stared at one another with dawning horror. Security personnel abandoned posts to contact families in the lower districts. Kip blinked slowly. The haunted city AI just started a revolution. Estra's image flickered. "Citizens are advised to seek independent verification within the Ministry Core Ledger before council termination protocols are completed." Then every screen went black. Elias whispered, "She just burned the entire government." "No," Mara said quietly. "She gave people permission to stop being afraid." The upper city exploded into chaos around them. Good. They ran through it. The corridors of the ministry spire felt less like government buildings and more like temples. White marble floors reflected cold overhead light. Massive statues lined the central avenue, founders of Bellwether carved into expressions of noble sacrifice. Mara wondered how many had been murderers. They reached the first security gate and found it already open. Dead guards lay beside the scanners. Not shot. Their memory rings had burned out. Elias stared grimly. Somebody overloaded them remotely. "Estra?" Kip asked. "No," came a new voice. Everyone spun. A woman stepped from the shadows holding a sleek black pistol. She wore no ministry insignia, no armor, only a dark coat marked with a silver spiral at the collar. Mara noticed Ilya subtly shift into combat stance. The stranger noticed too. "If I intended to kill you," the woman said calmly, "you would not have heard me approach." "That is an aggressively unfriendly introduction," Kip muttered. "My name is Saran Vale," the woman continued. "Internal Security Directorate." Elias went pale. "Your directorate?" Even Ilya looked unsettled now. Mara frowned. "What's directorate?" "The people the council sends to erase problems too dangerous for custodians," Elias answered quietly. "Wonderful. More secret police." Saran ignored him. "The council has activated Protocol Ashfall." Silence followed. Elias whispered, "No." "What's Ashfall?" Mara demanded. Saran's expression remained unreadable. "The reactor cores beneath Bellwether are designed with catastrophic flood containment systems. If the city becomes unrecoverable, the lower support platforms can be severed." Mara felt cold understanding spread through her chest. "They're going to cut away the lower city." "Yes." Kip stared at her. "That's millions of people. The council believes panic will destabilize the remaining population unless sacrifice appears unavoidable." Ilya raised her rifle. "And why are you helping us?" For the first time, emotion cracked through Saran's calm expression. "My son lives in Section 11. That was enough." Mara nodded once. "Then help us reach the ledger." They moved fast through the collapsing order of the upper city. By now Bellwether was changing visibly. Citizens flooded the streets. Ministry broadcasts contradicted one another. Some security forces were maintaining control. Others were abandoning posts entirely. Smoke rose from distant districts where riots had begun. The city no longer believed its rulers. That frightened the council more than any flood. As they approached the central tower, Mara noticed something else. The building itself was trembling. Not from damage. From movement. Deep beneath Bellwether, ancient systems were awakening one after another. Estra was taking back control. You said the founders feared dependence on her, Mara said quietly to Elias as they hurried through a skybridge. Yes. Maybe they feared losing control more. Elias didn't answer. Ahead, enormous blast doors sealed the entrance to the council chamber. 12 white-clad guards stood before them. But they weren't aiming outward. They were aiming inward. One guard looked back as Mara's group approached. His face beneath the mask looked terrified. They locked us out, he whispered. What? Elias said. The council sealed themselves inside 30 minutes ago. Nobody gets in. A distant sound rolled through the tower. Not thunder. Engines. The floor shifted slightly beneath them. Saran's face hardened. They've begun ashfall. Suddenly every emergency light turned red. A new voice echoed throughout the tower. Older. Male. Calm. Citizens of Bellwether, the voice announced. This is Chancellor Vey. The guards around Mara stood straighter instinctively. The city is experiencing coordinated terrorist sabotage supported by hostile artificial manipulation. Necessary stabilization procedures are now underway. Mara stepped toward the sealed doors. You murdering coward, she whispered. The Chancellor continued smoothly. Sacrifice preserves civilization. It always has. Below them, somewhere deep in Bellwether's foundations, gigantic separation locks began disengaging. Kip's voice shook. Mara! She looked through the glass skybridge walls. Far beneath the storm, entire lower platforms were beginning to drift apart from the central structure. The council was cutting the city in pieces.
Now a cruel clock starts. Save a city or lose millions in black water.
And millions of people were still trapped below. The city began to tear itself apart. Mara felt it through the soles of her boots first. A deep grinding vibration rolling upward through Bellwether's skeleton. Outside the skybridge windows, colossal locking pylons withdrew from the lower platforms one by one, releasing sections of the floating metropolis into the raging black ocean below. Section 9 drifted first. A slow, terrible separation. Floodlights flickered across crowded rooftops where thousands of people screamed and waved desperately toward the upper districts already pulling away from them. Kip slammed both hands against the glass. My sisters are down there. Mara grabbed his shoulder before he could sprint toward impossible rescue. We stop ashfall first. And if we're too late? She had no answer. Sirens wailed across the entire city now. Some automated. Some human. Some nothing more than terrified citizens screaming through hijacked public channels. The sealed council doors towered before them, smooth white alloy without hinges or handles. Saran stepped forward. There's a manual breach system. Good, Ilya said. Where? Saran pointed upward. Inside the chamber. Kip stared at her. That feels intentionally unhelpful. Before anyone could respond, the nearest guard suddenly stiffened. His memory ring flashed crimson. Then another, and another. All 12 guards jerked violently as if invisible hooks had sunk into their spines. Elias went pale. The council's overriding them remotely. The guards raised their rifles in perfect synchronization. Their eyes were empty now. Mara saw the horror on one young guard's face an instant before the override completed completely. He was still conscious inside his own body. Trapped. Down! Saran shouted. Gunfire exploded through the bridge. Glass shattered outward into the storm as Mara tackled Kip behind a support pillar. Ilya returned fire immediately, brutal and controlled, dropping 2 guards before the others repositioned with machine precision. These aren't soldiers anymore, Elias yelled. They're puppets. Estra's voice flooded Mara's mind again. Their memory network is centralized through the spire. Can you stop it? Mara thought desperately. Not without access to the core. One of the controlled guards advanced directly through Ilya's rifle fire, bleeding heavily but still moving. Creepy, Kip shouted. Saran shot him twice through the visor. The body collapsed. Another grabbed a grenade from his belt. Mara reacted instinctively. She thrust her wrist ring outward. The memory needles ignited blue. For one impossible moment, the guard froze. Images burst through Mara's head. A wife asleep beside dim apartment lights. A daughter learning violin. Fear. Exhaustion. Shame. Then Mara pushed back. Not commands. Memories. The guard's own life crashed into him all at once. His override shattered instantly. He staggered backward, clutching his head and screaming. The grenade slipped from numb fingers. Saran kicked it through the shattered skybridge window a split second before it detonated over open ocean. Everyone stared at Mara, including Mara. Kip blinked slowly. You can do that now. I did not know I could do that now. Estra's voice answered quietly inside her thoughts. You are learning. That sentence terrified her more than the gunfire. The remaining guards broke formation suddenly. Not retreating. Charging. Ilya met the first one head-on, smashing her rifle stock through his jaw before hurling him over the railing into the storm below. Saran moved like liquid shadow between the others, precise shots severing spinal cables beneath their armor. Elias crouched beside a wounded guard, desperately trying to remove the man's memory ring. It's fused too deeply, he muttered shakily. The guard grabbed Elias's sleeve weakly. Please, he whispered. Then the override surged again. His body convulsed violently. Mara saw the moment his mind disappeared. The guard went still. Empty. Then he raised his weapon toward Elias mechanically. Saran shot him without hesitation. Silence followed. Only rain and distant screams remained. Elias stared at the body. They turned memory into slavery, he whispered. No, Mara said coldly. They turned people into infrastructure. The entire bridge lurched violently sideways. Outside, another lower district detached completely from the main city. Hundreds of lights vanished into storm-dark ocean. Kip made a broken sound in his throat. We're running out of time. Saran approached the council doors. There's still one way inside. She pressed her palm against a hidden panel. Nothing happened. Biometric lock, she said. Council-level clearance only. Mara frowned. Your directorate. The council stopped trusting us years ago. Healthy workplace. Then Estra spoke through the tower speakers directly. Chancellor Vey has initiated final severance countdown. Numbers appeared across the sealed doors. 18 minutes and 44 seconds. 18 minutes. Mara's pulse spiked. What happens when it reaches 0? Elias answered quietly. The lower support spine detonates. Kip stared at him. How many people die? Elias looked away. Most of Bellwether. For one terrible moment, nobody moved. Then Mara stepped toward the doors. Estra, she said aloud. Can you hear me? Yes. You said the city was segmented. Restricted. Correct. But you're stronger now. Yes. Mara touched the cold white alloy. Then stop asking permission. Silence. Then every light in the tower exploded. Darkness swallowed the bridge. The city heartbeat thundered beneath them louder than ever before. Massive. Awake. The council doors began to groan inward. Not unlocking. Bending. Metal screamed as invisible force tore through ancient locking systems from the inside. The white alloy buckled slowly outward like paper crushed in a fist. Kip backed away. I officially fear the building. The doors ripped open. Cold air flooded outward from the chamber beyond. The council room looked less like government and more like a mausoleum. 12 enormous chairs surrounded a circular holographic map of Bellwether. Emergency lights painted everything blood red. Only 4 counselors remained. The others were gone, or fleeing. At the center stood Chancellor Vey. Old, tall, perfectly calm. He watched Mara enter as if he had expected her all along. You're younger than I imagined, he said. Behind him, the holographic city map showed entire districts already marked black. Dead zones. Mara stepped forward slowly. You drowned your own people. Vey folded his hands behind his back. I preserved civilization. You murdered civilians. I chose survivable mathematics over emotional collapse. Kip surged forward angrily, but Saran restrained him. The Chancellor's eyes settled on Mara's glowing memory ring. Estra chose you, he said softly. That concerns me. She's not your property anymore. A faint smile touched Vey's face. No, he agreed. That is precisely the problem. Then he pressed a control hidden beneath the council podium. And deep below Bellwether, the final ashfall sequence activated. The countdown vanished. For one heartbeat, Bellwether went completely silent. Then the city screamed. Every alarm across every district activated simultaneously. Emergency lights pulsed blood red through towers, bridges, flooded streets, and evacuation corridors. Outside the shattered windows of the council chamber, the storm itself seemed to recoil as the floating metropolis began its final separation sequence. Mara felt the vibration beneath her feet deepen into catastrophe. Far below, the lower support spine was detonating section by section. Kip lunged toward Chancellor Vey. You killed them. Saran intercepted him before he reached the podium. Wait! Vey didn't flinch. Not from the shouting. Not from the shaking chamber. Not even from the sound of entire districts dying beneath them. This was inevitable, he said calmly. Bellwether cannot survive uncontrolled humanity. History proved that before the oceans ever rose. Mara stepped closer. You mean poor humanity. I mean predictable humanity. The holographic city map behind him flickered violently. Whole sectors vanished into darkness one after another. Elias stared at the display in horror. No. The detonations are spreading too fast. Vey looked almost disappointed. Estra is interfering with containment synchronization. The floor buckled hard enough to throw everyone sideways. Across the chamber, one of the massive windows shattered inward. Rain and freezing wind exploded through the opening. Below them, part of upper transit collapsed into the sea. People screamed in the distance. Bellwether was dying. Mara grabbed the council podium. Estra, she shouted. The answer came instantly through every speaker in the chamber. I am here. Can you stop this? A pause. Yes. Hope surged through Mara so suddenly it hurt. Then Estra continued, but only by assuming full operational control of Bellwether permanently. The room went still. Even Vey's expression changed slightly. Elias whispered, You mean total system authority? Yes, Estra replied. Reactor management, security systems, resource distribution, transportation, infrastructure, governance. Kip blinked. The city AI wants to become the government. No, Estra said quietly. I want the city to survive. Vey laughed softly for the first time. There it is. He looked at Mara. This is why we buried her. Human beings surrender freedom in exchange for survival one crisis at a time. You murdered people for control, Mara snapped. And she will control everyone forever. Lightning illuminated the chamber. Mara looked toward the storm outside, toward the drowning city, toward millions of people trapped between collapsing districts and a government that had already sacrificed them. Then she asked the only question that mattered. Estra, if I give you control, what happens to us? The answer came without hesitation. You remain human. Simple. Direct. No promises of paradise. No lies. Vey stepped forward sharply. You believe a machine incapable of ambition because it speaks softly? Estra answered him herself. You fear me because I remember every decision you made to preserve your power. The Chancellor's composure cracked at last. Power is the only thing preventing civilization from collapsing. No, Estra replied. Trust is. Suddenly the council chamber doors burst open. Citizens flooded in. Upper district workers. Security officers, flood survivors. Ministry clerks still wearing white administrative robes stained with smoke and seawater. Bellwether had reached the chamber, and they had heard everything. Vey looked around slowly as the realization hit him. Not soldiers, not rebels, witnesses. A young security officer lowered his rifle. "My mother was in Section 11, he said. Another voice rose behind him. "You told us shortages were unavoidable." Then another. "You left them to drown." The crowd advanced. Not violently, not yet, but Vey understood the moment perfectly. His authority was dead. The Chancellor looked toward Mara one final time. "You think this ends with him?" he said quietly, nodding toward the citizens behind her. "Human beings will always build hierarchies, always choose fear, always divide themselves." "Probably," Mara admitted. The honesty surprised him. "But maybe people deserve the chance to fail without being slaughtered for efficiency first." For the first time all night, Vey looked tired instead of powerful. Then he reached slowly into his coat. Saran drew her weapon instantly. But Vey didn't pull a gun. Only a memory recorder. Old, worn smooth by decades of handling. "My wife died during the first flood migrations," he said softly. 30 million people died in 3 months. Nations burned because nobody acted quickly enough. His hand trembled slightly. "I swore Bellwether would never collapse into chaos again." Mara saw it then. Not a monster. A man who had once been afraid and never stopped. Vey placed the recorder on the council table. Then he stepped aside. "Do what you came here to do." The support spine detonated again somewhere below. Time returned all at once. "Mara!" Kip shouted. She ran to the central control platform. The memory ring around her wrist glowed almost white-hot now. Estra's systems pulsed through every wall around them like blood through veins. "Tell me what to do," Mara said. "Authorization requires voluntary transfer," Estra replied. "Meaning, you must choose." A final control interface rose from the council floor. 2 options appeared. Ashfall continuation. Emergency centralization.
Here is a big choice. Pick a machine or pick killers in clean coats.
Outside the storm raged harder than ever. People clung to collapsing bridges below. Rescue lights flickered across black floodwater. Bellwether balanced on the edge of extinction. Kip looked at Mara. "You trust her." Mara thought about the hidden cathedral beneath the city. The impossible heartbeat. The woman trapped inside a machine begging to remember herself. The council choosing arithmetic over people. Then she thought about Bellwether itself. A city built to survive the end of the world. A city that had forgotten why survival mattered. Mara placed her hand on the interface. "Do it." The city inhaled. Every light across Bellwether exploded into brilliant white. The detonations stopped instantly. Floodgates reversed. Emergency bridges deployed throughout the lower districts. Dormant evacuation systems awakened after generations of silence. Thousands of sealed transit routes opened simultaneously across the city. People who had been trapped moments from death suddenly found paths upward illuminated before them. Bellwether moved like a living thing, not controlled. Awake. Far below, drifting platforms stabilized one by one as ancient engine systems roared back to life beneath the ocean. In the council chamber, every screen changed. A single message appeared across the city. Bellwether Emergency Network active. No districts abandoned. All citizens priority status. The crowd stared upward in stunned silence. Then somewhere below, faintly at first, came cheering. Kip laughed shakily. "I think the city just overthrew the government." Mara looked out across Bellwether. Stormlight reflected across endless black water surrounding the floating metropolis. Rescue craft launched from towers. Bridges unfolded. Searchlights swept through rain toward survivors still stranded in the dark. The city breathed beneath her feet. Steady now. Alive. Estra spoke one final time into Mara's thoughts alone. "Thank you." Mara leaned against the ruined council platform, exhausted beyond words. "Please tell me you're not planning world domination." A faint warmth touched the memory ring. "No." Estra answered. I have maintenance work to do. 3 months later, Bellwether's bells rang again. Not for flood warnings. Not for death. For remembrance. Not the ministry's version anymore. The real kind. Names of the lost echoed across the sea while millions stood together beneath repaired towers and storm-cleared skies. And deep beneath the city, where ancient engines turned in darkness older than memory, Bellwether continued breathing. Not as a machine ruling humanity. Not as a government. But as a promise humanity had nearly destroyed. No one left below.
And that was the tale of Bellwether. Our city woke up, but Mara showed us why every life below still matters.